we are live.
This is the November 9th meeting of the Community Development Committee, and we have Jeremy Varner and Vink Garbett, our members. We have Mayor Cowhall, we have Clerk Brian Fott here, and I'm Nancy Montgomery, and I'm the chair of the committee. So the first thing up, we have the meetings of the last minute. I didn't make a agenda. I hope you guys don't mind. Anyway, we have the meetings from the October 12th. So I'll take a motion to accept those or any additions or deletions.
I move to accept this as I remember it.
Okay. All right. Jeremy made the motion, Bink seconded it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now since this will be my last meeting, I thought that we'd kind of go over a few things, catch up what needs to be carried on that we're in the middle of or whatever after I'm gone. The first thing I want to say is the Village of Georgetown special event policy. There was some lack of communication. This was actually supposed to be approved and put in force last January, but so nobody feels like we're targeting them or whatever. This is the final draft from Joe Braun. We had gone through some drafts in that. There was one area we thought maybe something needed to be reworded, but he said it was fine. So you can look through it or that, but I would hope that, that would come at the next meeting to council and hopefully be approved. We worked a long time on it. Like I say, it was supposed to be done last January, but anyway, I think it's in good shape. It's the policy, the application, and then an application checklist so people are sure they've got what they need for the application.
Nancy, since this is streaming live, can you go over like some of the highlights in this as to why we're doing this and what are some of the things that you think are important?
It's been a while since I looked at it. But the goal of this was to make sure that everybody's aware. Sometimes they'll wait to the last minute and say, oh, well, I thought. It's like, no, you got to tell us ahead of time. Or we'll have, we don't have that many events going on. You don't have people schedule one on top of the other. So this is a way for the office to keep up with, because they'll have the application to keep up with that. We want to make sure that everybody follows the guidelines. There's really nothing very different in here. It has to be a public event. You can have small or private events like at Catherine Hanlon Park, funeral, honorary processions, demonstrations, those kind of things. Those are not covered in here. This is just for public events, a lot of which are on the square. Gives us contact information. So if there's a question or whatever, we know who to contact, the organization doing it. They have to have insurance. It explains that. That's not any different than it is now. Talks about the hours. They can't begin before 7 or extend beyond 11. Talks about security and safety services. It gives you some situations where you might need to have security, or you might want a police detail. It gives you some examples, because sometimes people don't think about it, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, you're having 600 people in alcohol. That's probably a good time to have some security. Talks about traffic control, closing the roads, trash and recycling. There is a section on park usage, noise, alcohol, signage, restrooms, just all the general things that some people may not think about. It helps them get a little more organized. Amusements and attractions, electrical requirements. That's one thing that, thanks to Jerry and our electrical department, since the bicentennial, they did a great job. We have electricity all over the square and out at the park, and food and beverage. Then we have the application, which is one page. In fact, it's not even a page. It's like 2/3 of a page that they would fill out. And, with hours, the date, contact info, that kind of thing. And then I made up a special event application checklist so they're sure they've got everything they need when they turn this in. And so that's just kind of keep the village involved and be sure that everybody has what they need on the day of their event. Nobody likes to have an event plan, then you get up here and it's like, uh-oh, we forgot to get the streets closed, or do we have electricity? So,
And, when people come in and they want to have a special event, who do they go to? The administrative staff?
goes
I
to the
guess?
administration, yeah, it goes
Okay.
into the office.
Okay.
I think, as I recall, because it's been a little bit, there's really not anything different in there. It's
No.
just streamlined and easier for the public to do things and easier for the village staff to make sure of things. I think it's just more about ease of use.
Right. And they're not calling and asking 100 questions. And like I say, sometimes there's things that people didn't think about. There's even a thing about fireworks in here. But it's very clear. It's not that long. The application is very easy, and the checklist will help make sure everybody's on the right page. So that really, I would highly recommend if possible to get that passed so that goes in effect January 1. Then nobody can say, well, because we talked about it earlier in the year, and it's like, people are going to feel like we're targeting them, and we're not. This is for everybody, even village events like kegs.
Right.
Everybody will fill this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get this circulated to the council members for our next council meeting,
Yes.
so they have some time to.
Yeah,
Look
they
at
need
that.
to.
So, Mayor, is that something that you would want this committee to do, or is that something that's now out of committee and now to more official?
Well, I think it needs to go to all of them, and so that they have a chance to look at it. I mean, if we can have the administrative staff send this out in advance of a council meeting so that they can
That'd be
see it.
good.
That's what, yeah.
And then if they have questions before the council meeting, they're prepared for it.
Yeah, okay, I just, does it like our job or,
No,
yeah,
well,
okay, yeah,
yeah, you don't have to do that.
thank you.
Okay, the next thing is an ordinance to establish the procedures and regulate the trapping of nuisance raccoons and groundhogs in the village of Georgetown, Ohio. This got delayed. We had somebody come, and I hear there's somebody else talking about coming. Number one, art situation. Number two, Joe being busy. Number three, waiting for the man we had talked to. And the reason for him to renew his license was because he will do it like half price for the village of anybody else. Anyway, it's not that long. I know you guys, did I send this to you last month?
I did not.
This is the first that I've seen.
We're looking at each other
Okay.
to make sure neither one of us say it first, right?
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I think I had gotten it like that day. So this is something that just look it over, notes on your plate. I don't know this time of year is the best time to be kind of trap any of those, but I did have somebody a couple days ago said the ones in the sewer came out and were very aggressive. So
Well,
we can try it, maybe and see what we get. Unfortunately, we've waited so long, they'll all be reproducing about February.
but I think the key is if we can get them out of here before
Yeah.
new litters are born, that's a step
Yeah.
in the right direction for sure.
And I know a lot of people say, well, that's not, that's up to the citizens and this and that. These critters are living in our sewers.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if we don't take care of them, they're going to be all over town. It does not take them long. They're not like rabbits, but pretty darn close. And they're not nearly as cute, although they're cute. So I think that this is something, it was kind of like the cat program, and this won't cost anywhere near that. But it helps the citizens. It's what we're here for, and the fact that they're have their little communities in our sewers. They're like our raccoons and groundhogs. So
Now, this isn't in our packet to decide tonight.
no. I think they both need to.
Yeah.
I just kind of skimmed it. I will tell you the one thing I don't like that I saw. Yep. There was somewhere in here, I personally, it said something in here about leg traps and that.
Yeah.
I do
It's on
not
page
like it.
3.
Is it? Yeah, I personally
Foot and
would,
cap, it's section 14, foot and capsulating traps. I think you're on page 3. I think you're on page 5.
and my eyes are all
That one.
cruddy from allergies.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
So foothold traps and.
it
foot
shall be.
capsule.
Oh, okay. That's not where I saw it, but anyway, that's good. I mean, I think humane traps should be used, and then they're removed from town, and whoever will take care of them.
Does this have something in there where we're not trapping them with like a bear
yes.
trap or anything like that? It's basically encasing them in a.
They're humane traps.
Okay.
Yeah, like have a heart. They won't be have a heart because they're expensive, but same kind of thing.
But like for the bear trap thing, they have size limitations on how big the traps can be.
Well, the reason I ask that is, you got kids walking around, are they going to get
Yep,
their foot caught in
Absolutely.
something or something like that?
that's the max it can be right
Okay.
there, so. Mhm.
Yeah, and any kind of leg traps. I'm sorry, but that's me. Okay, so those two things are kind of urgent in my book.
Wait, real quick. So Dale, same thing as with the other one.
We'll
is-
circulate this in advance.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate that.
Things that have not been completed. Well, of course, the historic signage. I told Selma and John not to come tonight since it's my last night. We kind of needed to go over some things, and I didn't want to spend the time on the historic signs. So of course you still got that. Bink, how was your wife when you told her that you volunteered her to do our brochure?
She was okay with it. She loves doing that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
good.
So she will. I could have had a mock up tonight, but since we weren't meeting, I'll have one
All
for
right.
the next time we meet.
The secondary signs, those were supposed to be ordered. Those were approved by council and were supposed to be ordered months ago. And so
I don't know whether they have been or not.
they have not been.
Okay. In fact, I talked to Kelly Jones today. I said, we don't have a sign out by Rumpke out on 68. And I think that was one of them we were going to get, wasn't it, or not?
No, these were the small ones that go
Yeah.
on the secondary routes.
Okay.
Anyway, those were already approved because we had the cost and everything. So those were approved, but they've not been ordered. Now, the ones that we wanted, the ad hoc committee, were the brown history signs that go out on 68, and they'll have an arrow for the historic Georgetown Grant home and all of that. Art was going to get quotes on those signs.
I don't know, and I don't
know.
know whether he has or not at this point. in
Yeah,
time.
I don't know. Last time I talked to him, he hadn't, but I don't know if he has or not. He has all the dimensions and everything. So those need to, the brown signs will have to be approved yet. We didn't have any kind of quote to give them what it would cost, but the secondary signs, we did. And that just leaves the 5 to 10 year park plan that, we had Mr. Brandstetter come in. I don't know how y'all felt about
He
him.
gave us a brochure for that, didn't he? Did he just talk?
He talked and he gave us business cards
Okay.
and he told us some places. I kind of felt it was cookie cutter personally, but
I was hoping that it was the start of a conversation as opposed to like, here's a somewhat generic launching pad and then we can
Yeah.
tweak, and I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something we might want to involve the community in, ask what they're interested in. I mean, we've all heard what they want. I've tried to get everything everybody's asked for thus far. But one of the problems with the park, it was never planned. I mean, we got that grant, and I don't blame anybody for it. You know, I mean, who would have thought? And there just was no planning done. So I think for the second 20 acres, isn't there about 20 acres?
We've only used about half of it, a
Yeah.
little more than half.
I just think that needs to be planned out. You know, people have talked about wanting an amphitheater. I know disc golf or frisbee golf is something that I'd still like to see if we could do that out of what we have, but that's something that's been asked for a lot. But I think it'd be good to involve the community in that and what they're interested in. But I definitely think, and maybe a 5-year and a 10-year plan. I mean, I don't know. You put down what you're wanting to. The biggest problem out there is a swamp. It's going to cost a fortune to fill that land in and everything, but there's money for that
There'll have to be some drainage ditches put in there and
for sure.
culverts and whatever, but
And-
it's doable.
Because of the route that I'm picturing from one of Art's presentations, is that can be part of that whole?
Appellation
Yeah,
grant
yeah.
process. Part of that, you know, I think he was wanting that for part of the trails where it could go from the park up through North Street, back up into town.
Yep.
So
But that 20 acres is not
no,
included in that, I don't think.
I was wondering if,
The track is, the path at the park is, and then coming out of the back and going up to the Grant Homestead and then uptown.
Yep,
But that I know, I mean, maybe you know more.
No,
than
I
do.
don't know any more than you
I
know
don't
on
think that park was included in that.
No, it was kind of thrust into there because we thought we could squeeze money to
Yeah.
use towards that. So that's where we're.
and does it cross over if, for example, you're improving the roadway going back through a swamp, therefore you have to improve the drainage?
Therefore, we have to build a 20-acre park.
Amphitheater, yes.
Yeah.
To do
I
with
think the
drainage.
state will buy that.
You'd make a good politician.
I'm doing my best here.
But anyway, you know, that's just something that has been talked about for several years and it's actually never been done. And I do think it would help to have somebody who is used to park planning and that, but I don't necessarily want somebody to give us just a generic plan and say, here, this is what we did here and this is what we did this every place. I would rather have a little more to what we want. And, well, that was a pretty quick run through. But that's all I've got.
Summarizes a crap ton of work. I mean, it's a lot.
Sure, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
We just kind of caught behind some things. And then when we started on the historic signage, that's just taken over the last, 2-3 meetings or something. And that needs to be done for sure. That needs to be finished. We ought to be close to finishing that, shouldn't we? We had the ordinance finished and then we had the application and we were working on the ancillary documents.
There's, my understanding, if I'm remembering correctly, is that there's like 2 items left that we were going to, I can picture them where they're in my bag right here, but at the top of the top of the second to last page and then midway through the last page, there's only 2 things we needed to. For what? For the
Signage.
Historic signage. And it's not really historic signage. And I don't know where it would go, but one of the things that Selma is concerned about is some of the businesses putting things on sidewalks where they're coming out farther than they should. And I know her view was they should not come out any farther than a sidewalk sign. But I don't know if this is the place to have that. I mean, this is historic sign ordinance.
You know that we have some sidewalks that are 6 or 8 feet wide, where a normal sidewalk's 3 feet wide.
Right.
Or so, but it probably has to be looked at, especially up here on the commercial row. You know, I think the only one that does that is the hardware store, maybe Sarah's shop occasionally.
Once in a while.
ST Marie does.
ST Marie does
Yeah.
too. Yeah, but those are all big sidewalks. I think what you want to make sure is that there's people can get through with wheelchairs, walkers, that type of
Absolutely.
stuff. Or someone can walk side by side with the person they're with without there being interference.
The only complaint I have ever heard was about the hardware store.
Yeah.
That they had stuff out so far that people couldn't walk. They were stepping out into the street and that, so.
I feel like that's pretty solvable. I mean, there's a lot of room for compromise.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just don't know if you're gonna put it in writing. I don't know that this is
I
where it
understand.
needs to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah,
I don't know that it has anything to do with signage.
yeah, which is pretty specific. It's a
So
pretty
then where do you
specific
put it? We don't have a display ordinance.
Because interestingly enough, it's actually not specific to, because the signage stuff is specific to the historic district,
Right.
whereas these.
Well, but I
considerations
think
would
that's
be
what she's
specific.
worried about, because
Yeah.
that's where the problem's been. It's just the historic district.
But then that's a coincidence. It could be anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
this would apply anywhere, not just the district. So it
Mhm.
definitely would not be this paperwork, which is just,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
I'm not so much opposed to people putting their wares out on the sidewalk as long as there's
Yeah.
paths to get through.
Yeah.
Of course, I remember when I was,
kinda like it.
when I was a little kid, all those stores were busy. They stayed open until 9 o'clock every night, and you had to fight your way down the sidewalk to get into stores and what have you. But those are times that are well past. And, I wish they would return because that would be nice.
Well, I remember the sidewalk sales.
Yeah.
They'd have clothes out on racks, and it wasn't always easy to get around, but it was like once a year. I think they did it at the beginning of summer or into summer. I don't remember. And
Yeah, we'll have to be a little cautious on how we try to regulate
Yeah.
that, just simply because it might feel like we're being a little too
well,
militant on
isn't
that.
there some kind of Ohio Basic Code or an ordinance somewhere that talks about you can't block sidewalks? Wouldn't it come under that?
I'm sure that it would be.
We
the
would just
case.
need somebody to
I
enforce
know
it.
we can do it with bushes that overhang sidewalks.
Yeah.
We can trim them back. But there's probably something out there, but I don't know where it's at.
And I would think most people, you say, hey, people are complaining they can't get by. Can you move it? They'd move it.
I think so.
I just don't think this is a big, but it probably will need to be enforced.
I would think if you asked them just to maintain a 3-foot wide walk
Yeah.
space,
Yep.
that they would figure that out.
Yeah, and I think 36 inches is pretty standard for wheelchairs. I think that's an ADA. I
Yeah.
think it's 36 inches. We don't have to worry about inclines and all of that. So anyways, is there anything else you guys can think of to put on this list?
I've had people ask me about the possibility of, and I think this may have come up for you all before, reserving the park, the shelters and stuff like that, because it's,
That came up before and we decided not to, just
okay.
because it's a real headache for the office. And usually they want it on a Saturday or a Sunday or an evening and nobody's working. And
Yeah, then you have to put signage out there to say it's reserved from 6 to 8 for such and such.
then hope somebody honors it.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time.
Talking about it.
Yeah, and it,
I wish it was easy to do, but it's not necessarily that
Yeah.
easy.
because I thought, oh, just have a spreadsheet that the village administrator keeps track of stuff on, stuff like that. And I was surprised at how many what ifs, but then there's this and that kind of thing. And it got to be really large real quick. I was surprised at that. Unfortunately, surprised at that.
And then there was some suggestion that we rent it.
Yep.
And we've got a park where the ground was given to us. Just about every amenity out there has been donated in one way or the other. And the people's tax money pay to upkeep it. And now you want to rent it and make, that was but yeah, we had a couple of talks about that.
Yeah,
So,
but when you think about it, in greater Cincinnati, they have a parks district where you have to pay to utilize their park, so it's not unheard of, but it's a different situation there as it is
Absolutely.
here.
yeah. Anyway, as soon as we get the proposal done in that, then there are several businesses that aren't in compliance. And we haven't really changed anything in the ordinance. All we've done is clarify it. And I know that there are several that are not in compliance, and we just decided to wait until we had the ordinance done, and then Kelly or Art or whoever can send letters and say, you know, they're not in compliance. It's only a few of them. So
Do we need to decide like what kind of time frame we give them to get into compliance?
It's in
I
the
think it's in the ordinance.
ordinance, yeah.
Okay.
And I can't remember what it was, but I remember us erring on the side of being a little generous or a little lenient.
Yeah, I thought we
it's
were
like-
given too much time, but everybody else.
Right. It's,
like, that's okay.
yeah, was it 45 days? Am I crazy on that? I could be wrong,
It's something, yeah.
but it's definitely in there and I don't.
I
think
remember
it's-
looking at it, but what do we do about the people who are current? I mean, I know it's hard to get somebody to do something in 45 days out there professionally. If that's what we're wanting, is it done
Well, I
professionally?
think if they
Yeah.
can't do it and they come up and explain
Okay.
that, no, it's going to take, 2 more weeks or
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, I think all of this, you got to give some discretion to the administrator.
Yeah.
Because they're supply problem, they're just problems beyond people's control. And I would think that they would be reasonable, but we're not going to give them 2 years to do it. That's not reasonable.
Especially if they can come and say like, look, I've had the person come out to price the job and, if you're, I guess you would say good faith
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
efforts. I think that,
Mhm.
in my opinion, that should go a long way towards,
Mhm.
I think if they just keep in touch with the administrator,
Yeah.
they ought to be fine.
yeah.
Okay.
The other thing we've got to do is be absolutely sure new businesses are being given the information. And one of the problems is when you have a business move into a building that somebody else owns, the owner may have built the utilities into the rent. So the new business owner never comes to change utilities or that. So that's something that now this is just the historic district. It's not all of town.
Mhm.
So it should be pretty obvious. I mean, like I said, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 right now, I think, that aren't in compliant. And my guess is some of those never came to the utility department. And maybe they came and for some reason they weren't given the packet. I mean, I don't know. But we've got to be sure that the utilities department remembers to give it to people. And if, we hear there's a business opening up in the historic district, then I guess the administrator would need to be sure they've got the information. Because you don't want people to do a sign and pay for it and then find out it doesn't comply. I mean, but they've got to comply. So we need to be, I don't know how else to do it. I thought the utility department was a pretty good bet, but evidently they don't always change the utilities.
Right.
So,
And not wanting to put work in that office, but it seems like no matter what somebody's doing, eventually it always comes back to the village administrator. And if we had it, just a pre-printed welcome folder, just here's all the things that you might, and they might have come to the village administrator for a utilities thing, but in there's also things about signs, about this, about that, and any questions I might have, like a really complete, I think it would, if I were a business owner, that would be like,
I think the problem is a lot of them don't come up. They don't ask questions. They're just going to do what they want and then say they're sorry later, maybe.
Mhm.
And I don't know that we have that many problems with it. But I think that's not a bad idea.
if we had.
We were talking about, was it Selma was talking about if you hand a manila envelope or just hand something to somebody, they may not look at it. She said maybe if we had like a clear bag or whatever, and I've got a lot of bags left, door hanging bags that are clear that, you'd have to fold the ordinance in half or maybe thirds to get it in. But maybe we could put that brochure and they would see, oh, this is about signage.
I would say maybe your folder, instead of just saying welcome, says, historic district regulations or something like that. to where
Yeah,
It strikes them.
something would make them want to open it.
First, you gotta get them in here to give it to them.
Candy inside. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or somebody keep an eye out so somebody can give it to them if they don't come in.
Yeah, that would be, ideally, is it like if one of us driving past, like, for example, Kycam that just right by my house, right? I drive past it twice a day, just swing in and just check and see, hey, guys, you doing okay setting up? Do you need anything in the village? I mean, really, I probably should have done something like
Yeah.
that. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow.
But they're not in the historic district,
not
so
in the
their
historic
sign
district,
doesn't matter. Yeah.
I should still be nice to them. I mean, yeah.
But yes, but don't, yeah, they'd say, do you have a copy of this sign ordinance? But yeah, I haven't been up there either, I'm sorry to say. Anything else? I'm assuming you guys are taking, I don't know why I'm taking notes. Habit. Okay.
Yeah.
And Bink, you better be paying close attention because next month is Jeremy's last. So,
That's why we got stuff. I'm writing a lot, but I'm sure you are too. We'll, yeah.
okay. Is that it?
I don't have anything else on my list from before, like old business or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That hasn't already come up at any rate.
Well, I've enjoyed working with you all. I love this committee because there's so much in it that's important and makes a difference in the village. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
Symbolically, do you want to do it?
I don't think I can I, as chair? No,
You can
go ahead.
defer, you can defer back to her if no one wants to do that, about that.
You can go ahead and do that.
All right. I would then make an emotion to adjourn the CDC committee for the 9th of November.
Second? Jeremy made the motion, Bink seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6:34. That's the fastest meeting we've ever had.
Which is ironic because there's so much.
Well, no in-depth discussions. Oh, neck is killing me.